More than 79% of enterprises already deployed server virtualization. It's not difficult to make a decision should consider server virtualization, but however, it is a challenge to decide which kind of production application or workload to be virtualized. My name is Wang. I'm Senior Analyst of ESG-Sino. ESG is a research firm specialized in data center technology. In today's session, I'm going to share some of the ESG research data to cover following topics. We are going to cover evolution of server virtualization and the 4 dimensions of server virtualization. In addition, we are going to share some of the research data of server virtualization maturity trend, and we are going to talk about the storage challenge in the server virtualization evolution, how to select storage to protect server virtualization investment. Server virtualization evolution typically has 3 phases. The phase 1 is more concentrate how to reduce cost. A typical environment is deploy server virtualization in test and R&D environment. The phase 2 is more to concentrate how to leverage server virtualization to increase IT responsiveness or agility to business. And the typical environment is deploy some of the production applications in virtual environment and gradually deploy the tier 2 applications into the virtual environment. And the phase 3, in addition to have a tier 1 application in virtual environment, is requires the on-demand QoS, basically have a very dynamic way to turn IT infrastructure into IT services and leverage the resources of physical, virtual, and cloud environment to further increase the data center efficiency. According to ESG research, for the customers in Virtualization 2.0 and Virtualization 3.0, very often traditional storage becomes a bottleneck for them to achieve virtual application or workload performance needed to support business. To understand how server virtualization maturity has impacted to storage, ESG set up a 4 dimensions of server virtualization and also conducted research based on this 4 dimensions. The first dimension is the scope of deployment. The metric is percentage of servers that have been virtualized. The second dimension is efficiency. A metric is consolidation ratio, or often we call it VM density. The fourth dimension is applications, or the virtual production ratios, the percentage of VMs in production applications. The fourth dimension is a workload penetration. The metric is deployment across multiple workloads. Based on that metrics, ESG conducted research to 483 IT professionals in North America and Europe. And based on the grade, we categorize them into 3 of the segment. The second one is laggard. Basically, we could see the group 1, they have a lower percentage of physical server virtualized, typical less than 20%, and the VM deployed in production is less than 12%. Lower virtual to physical consolidation ratio, or VM density, normally is typical less than 5, and deployed across limited or basic workload is less than 13% in mission-critical production workload. So for this group of people, typically their purpose to deploy server virtualization is to reduce cost. The second group, we give a name of followers. Typically, they have a 10 to 30% of the server already virtualized, and VM density is about 5 to 10. There are 35% deployed in production, and there's a 37 have been deployed in mission-critical production workload. For this group, their focus is more to increase agility. The group 3, we call it a leader group. Typically, it has high server virtualization percentage, more than 40% of the physical server already virtualized, and there is a 67% of the VM in production environment. The VM density is more than 10. There are 75% have been deployed mission-critical production workload. For this group, they are moving from efficient IT services into the cloud computing. Compare three of the groups. The group 3 or the leader group has much higher IT efficiency and also the return of investment of server virtualization. We conduct a similar research in China market. We find out for group 2 and group 3, more and more customers indicate traditional storage becomes bottleneck for them to increase VM density and also start to deploy tier 1 applications in virtual environment. Let's have a look. What are the storage challenges during the server virtualization maturity increasing? For all three groups, the customers benefit server virtualization by reducing CapEx, OpEx, improve utilization, data availability, and improving DR process. But however, the higher virtualization maturity, it benefits more from the server virtualization. In our research, only 25% of the respondents in the category of leader segment, still 75% of the respondents in the follower or laggard groups. If server virtualization benefit is very obvious, what are the main obstacles for customers quickly improving their server virtualization maturity? The percentage of server to be virtualized is going to increase year over year. In addition, the VM density is increasing too. So to using traditional storage, provision for VM, in addition to it's going to introduce a loss of provision workload, and also it's going to cause storage capacity waste. In addition, because much of the provision is going to consume the host resources, it's limit customers to further increase VM density or further improve the ROI of server virtualization. The virtual machine in production environment is increasing from 39% in 2002 to 58% in 2012. Compared to the test environment, the virtual application very often is going to generate unpredicted workload. In addition, for production, high availability it becomes critical. In addition, how to have a resilience, storage, and IP to assure all production applications in virtual environment is going to have the performance and to support the business need. Traditional storage architecture has much of the limitation to deal with unpredicted workload and ultra-high availability, and also to make sure the hardware failure is not going to have much of an impact to a highly virtualized application performance or the impact to business. One of the key metrics to measure server virtualization return of investment is virtual machine density, or how many virtual machines can run on one physical server. From the chart, the trend is virtual machine density is increasing, so which requires a strong parallel performance and also the workload balance. Using the traditional storage to increase VM density, very often customers facing two of the typical problems. The first one is when increasing VM density, application performance starts going down. Second, when some of the applications in the peak cycle they could view, due to the workload balance issue, some of the applications' performance get impacted. During our research, there are 44% of the respondents indicate they have more than 26 applications and workload in the virtual environment. And their applications and workload is going to increasing year over year. By using traditional storage for highly virtualized environment to dealing with a high number of application and workload, customers very often facing the challenge of meet the mixed workload performance requirement. Basically, it's come from the traditional storage data path architecture. Due to the highly mixed workload, very often the resources contention cause application performance issue. With the server virtualization progress, it can support 32 vCPU and 1 TB VRAM, which will be sufficient to deal with much of the Tier 1 application requirement. But however, based on our result, only 41% of the respondents indicated they already deploy server virtualization for all workload, including mission critical. 47% of the respondents indicate they deploy server virtualization only for the non-mission critical production applications. So in that case, the barrier or obstacle for customers deploy server virtualization for more Tier 1 applications is more on the storage and network. We have interviewed quite a few customers based on the question is, what is your concern in terms of a deploy server virtualization for Tier 1 application workload? And the answer very often associated to storage. Customers are more looking for the storage can provide Tier 1 storage performance and functionality, and also can simplify the deployment and management in the highly virtualized environment. Server virtualization in business management applications such as web-based application, file printing, email, as well as testing and development can reduce cost. Server virtualization for the Tier 2 application and Tier 2 database can further improve the business agility. But server virtualization deployment for the Tier 1 database and application has even more strategic value. That is a critical step, truly enable enterprises to transfer from IT infrastructure to IT services. That has become the new market drive for the storage landscape and the storage technology change. We'll see there will be more storage with Tier 1 performance and functionalities, and also with much efficient management tools to further simplify the VM environment storage management. Virtual machine migration can help customers to keep the business continuity during the data migration from physical to virtual, and also when the hardware failure or during the technology refreshment. But however, during our research, there are only 30% of the respondents indicated they use the virtual machine migration regularly. 43% indicate they use it occasionally. In addition to the network concern and technology maturity, also the customer have a concern of the storage support to the virtual machine migration. From the storage point of view, to fully leverage virtual machine migration, customer more looking for the storage with a storage mobility function. If server virtualization is evolution, customers are more interested in what are the correlation between the years of server virtualization deployment to the server virtualization maturity. That is going to give customer an indication how to select server storage network to protect server virtualization investment. The navy blue color represent the respondent indicated they have more than 50 application and workload deployed in the server virtualization. The correlation between the years of server virtualization to the percentage of 50 more application workload indicated the customer is going to increase their application or workload over the years of server virtualization deployment. The blue color of this chart represents the VM density of more than 25, or one physical server support more than 25 virtual machines. The correlation between years of server virtualization deployment to 25 more of the VM density tells us the VM density increasing year over year. In regard to mission-critical workload in virtual environment, from the first box, we could see the server virtualization for mission-critical workload is increasing by the years of server virtualization deployment. In this box, for the orange color, that is for the customer already deployed server virtualization more than 5 years. Within that group, 62% of the respondents indicated they already deployed server virtualization for mission-critical workload. With that three chart, it tells us the correlation between server virtualization deployment to server virtualization maturity is server virtualization maturity is increasing by the years or by the length of server virtualization deployment. It's very important to evaluate server virtualization IT infrastructure, particularly storage, with the perspective of server virtualization maturity trend. We interviewed a few customers. We asked if you use the traditional storage for server virtualization, what are the challenges when it happened? Very often, during the initial server virtualization deployment, customer was not impacted because very often it's in the testing and development environment when production application introduced, particularly when they are trying to increase VM density, they were facing the application performance impact, and that has a direct negative impact to their business. To keep a virtual application performance, storage is very critical. We conduct research of storage challenge related to server virtualization and indicate the capital cost of new storage infrastructure is number one. As we talked early on, traditional storage has much of the limitation for server virtualization, particularly during the server virtualization maturity increasing. The number two storage challenge is scalability. For the traditional storage, although some of the storage with AA control architecture can scale capacity, but very often the capacity has compromised to the performance. For the highly virtualized environment, it more required scale-out architecture to keep the capacity increase, meanwhile keep the performance needed for highly virtualized application environment. Third challenge is operation cost of new storage infrastructure. Not many of the storage are designed specifically for the highly virtualized environment. Therefore, when deploy or provision storage for thousands of VM, it can be very costly. In addition, highly virtualized environment requires a higher data protection. It also requires the additional operation cost. The number four challenge is the security concern. When there are more production application and workload in virtual environment, customers are looking for the storage which can assure data and application security in highly virtualized environment. And the fifth storage challenge is performance. As we discussed early on, customers are more looking for the performance can give them the parallel processing power. In addition, the mixed workload as well as the wide load balance to avoid hotspot application performance become critical. The number six challenge is the storage capacity for virtualization. With the traditional storage technology, the provision for VM is going to consume much of the physical storage capacity, further increase the network storage cost. In terms of the server virtualization impact on storage infrastructure and process, server virtualization increased the use of SAN-based storage. In addition, it changed the DR and backup process. Also, the server virtualization increased the use of storage virtualization technology. To address all those storage challenges for server virtualization, customers are looking for storage virtualization. We conduct another survey for the customers already deployed server virtualization. Our question is, what is your organization storage spending priority in next 12 to 18 months. From this group of the research data, I indicate 86% of the clients indicate storage virtualization is their top priority on the storage spending. Traditional storage has become the key bottleneck for the server virtualization user to further increase VM density, deploy more production application workload in the virtual environment to meet the business requirement. During server virtualization evolution, server virtualization maturity is increasing, which include increasing VM density. There will be more production application and Tier 1 workload in virtual environment, increasing VM mobility for higher availability and business continuity. In addition, on-demand QoS, dynamic resources allocation, those are fundamental for enterprises to change from IT infrastructure to manage IT services. In addition, the workload life cycle efficient, that is critical to manage more with less. To support the server virtualization maturity increasing, storage need a new architecture to support increasing VM densities. In addition, to support more Tier 1 application in virtual environment, storage need a Tier 1 performance and functionalities. Server virtualization need a storage virtualization support. In addition, storage mobility is critical for customer fully leverage VM migration to improve the data protection level, in addition to keep the business continuity. Enterprises need a more dynamic and efficient storage, enable them to change from managing IT infrastructure to manage IT services. With that, I have concluded my webinar today. Thank you.